My name is Skylar Vance, and for 5 years I was a ghost. To the high-stakes world of venture capital in Denver, I am a titan, the iron CEO who built a $50 million logistics empire from a cracked smartphone and a library card. But to the people in the affluent, manicured suburb of Newton, Massachusetts, I was just the daughter who couldn't take a joke. I was the unstable twin who vanished into the night because she couldn't accept her sister's true love. Before we begin this powerful journey of betrayal and ultimate triumph, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon if you are interested in stories like this one. Your support allows us to keep sharing these incredible chronicles of resilience. It all began on a perfect afternoon in early June. I can still feel the oppressive warmth of the sun on my skin and the scent of the expensive roses my mother, Eleanor, had spent months obsessing over. My parents had gone all out for my college graduation party. They had rented a massive white tent that looked like a circus for the elite, draped in fairy lights and linen so crisp it felt like it was made of money. Through 4 grueling years of studying computer science at MIT, I was radiant. I felt like I was floating. My parents had invited everyone, professors, high school friends, and my father's business partners. And right by my side, holding my hand, was Hudson. Hudson was all-American, chiseled jaw, easy smile, and a navy blue suit we'd picked out together. We had been together for 4 years, and he was my rock. As we greeted guests, he kept whispering jokes in my ear. We had our whole future planned out. We were moving to Austin after the summer. "Just you and me, Skylar," he'd murmur. Standing next to me was my twin sister, Jade. As always, she was stunning in a vibrant red dress. We were identical twins, but night and day. I was the quiet, responsible, studious one. Jade was the charismatic spark. Party was perfect. Then, as the sun set, Hudson clinked his glass. "Skylar is the most brilliant woman I've ever known," he began. He got down on one knee. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," I choked out. The garden erupted. Jade was the first to hug us. "I'm so happy for you guys," she squealed. I was blissfully happy. I had no idea that in less than an hour that perfect world would be ash. I went to the car to find a missing brooch. Walking back, a strange unease crept in. Hudson and Jade were gone. My cousin Lacey whispered, "I saw them heading toward the old boathouse." I walked toward the lake, the air growing cooler. The boathouse was a dark silhouette. I heard a low laugh, Jade's. Through a crack in the door, I saw them. Hudson and Jade were wrapped in each other's arms, kissing with a ferocious intensity. "I can't keep pretending it's her I want," Hudson rasped. "She's just a placeholder." "I know," Jade whispered back. "She'll never understand what we have." My world shattered. My entire 4-year relationship was a lie, a failed experiment for Hudson to get over my sister. I ran to my car and drove, leaving my life burning in the rearview mirror. I checked into a seedy motel and watched the messages roll in. My father wrote, "Be mature, Skylar. They are truly in love. It's nobody's fault." Returning to Newton to gather my belongings felt like walking through a graveyard of my own memories. I didn't call ahead, I didn't want to sit down. I just wanted my books, my laptop, and the dignity I had left. When I stepped into the foyer, the house felt different. The air was thick with the smell of expensive lilies and a celebration that felt like a funeral for my past. I found them in the sunroom. My parents, Robert and Eleanor, were clinking crystal flutes with Hudson and Jade. They were laughing. The man who had proposed to me 72 hours ago was now feeding my sister a strawberry. The sight was so visceral, so grotesque in its lack of shame, that I felt a cold wave of clarity wash over me. "Skylar, thank God you're here," my mother said, though her eyes remained fixed on her glass. "We were worried you'd do something impulsive. Now sit down. We've discussed this, and your father and I feel that once you get over the initial shock, you'll see how beautiful this is. True love is a rare thing, and Jade has finally found her match." "My match," I whispered, my voice cracking. "He was my fiancé, Mom." "Oh, don't be so possessive, Skylar," my father interrupted, his tone dismissive. "Hudson tried his best to make it work with you, but you're difficult. You're always in your head, always with the computers. Jade is light. She's life. Hudson needs that. Be a big girl. We're keeping the engagement party deposits for their wedding in October." I didn't argue. I realized then that my role in this family had always been the backup. I was the reliable one who didn't cause trouble, while Jade was the prize to be polished. I walked upstairs, packed my life into 2 heavy suitcases, and left the key on the hall table. I didn't say goodbye. I drove until the manicured lawns of Massachusetts turned into the industrial skylines of the Midwest. I ended up in Omaha, Nebraska, because it was a place where the name Vance meant nothing. I found a studio apartment in a neighborhood that smelled of diesel and wet pavement. The walls were paper-thin, and the carpet was a shade of brown that suggested decades of forgotten lives. For the first 6 months, I lived like a monk. I took a job at a third-party logistics firm doing data entry in a windowless room from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. My coworkers were ghosts, tired men and women who spoke in murmurs. I was grateful for the invisibility. During the day, when I should have been sleeping, I sat in the local public library. I used their computers to take every high-level certification I could find. I studied Python, R, and AWS architecture until my eyes burned. I was surviving on $2 bags of frozen vegetables and the raw, white-hot fury that stayed in my chest like a pilot light. I caught my break when a mid-sized firm called Innovate posted a listing for a project manager for their failing Lois Inc. wing. No one wanted the job. The project was 18 months behind and hemorrhaging money. I walked into the interview with a 15-page audit I had conducted on their public-facing API. I showed them exactly where their logic was failing. "You're overqualified for the pay we're offering," the director, David, told me. "I don't want the pay," I said. "I want the equity. And I want full autonomy." He took the gamble. For the next year, I became a machine. I slept in my office 3 nights a week. I fired the lazy contractors, rewrote the core routing algorithm, and rebuilt the client's trust. By the end of the year, Lois Inc. wasn't just working, it was the most profitable sector of the company. I stayed long enough to vest my shares, then I sold them for a mid-6-figure sum. I didn't buy a car. I didn't go on a vacation. I moved to Denver, rented a small office in a tech incubator, and started EcoRoute. I knew the logistics industry was bloated and wasteful. My algorithm didn't just find the fastest path. It found the path with the lowest carbon footprint, the least wear on the vehicles, and the highest probability of on-time delivery. I wasn't just selling software, I was selling the future. By year 3, I was no longer a ghost. I was a name spoken in hushed tones at Silicon Slope conferences. I was the woman who had turned a $500,000 seed round into a $50 million valuation in 24 months. I bought a penthouse in lower downtown Denver, all glass and steel, where I could look out at the mountains and know that no one in that city could touch me. Then the email came. It wasn't a "how are you?" It was a ledger of failure. My mother wrote that Jade and Hudson had invested their entire wedding fund, and a significant portion of my father's retirement, into a guaranteed crypto mining venture that turned out to be a sophisticated Ponzi scheme. They were being sued. They owed money to creditors who didn't care about true love. "Skylar, we saw you on the cover of that business magazine. You look so successful. Surely you can spare $200,000 to save your sister's future? Hudson is in a dark place and Jade is inconsolable. We are your family. We are the only people who truly know you." I felt a cold, sharp laugh bubble up. They didn't know me. They knew a girl who had died in a boathouse in Newton. I replied with a link to a bankruptcy attorney and blocked the address. 2 weeks later, my assistant buzzed me. "There are 2 people in the lobby. They don't have an appointment, but the woman is, well, she's making a scene. She says she's your twin." I watched them on the security feed. Hudson looked haggard. his all-American charm replaced by a nervous twitch. Jade was wearing a designer coat that I knew she couldn't afford, her face a mask of desperation. I met them in the parking garage at the end of the day. "Skylar." Jade ran toward me, her heels clicking on the concrete. "Thank God. You have to help us. They're going to seize Mom and Dad's house. You have millions, what is a couple $100,000 to you?" "It's the principle," I said, leaning against my car. "You told me Hudson was your soulmate. Why can't your souls pay the debt?" "You're being a bitch, Skylar," Hudson snapped, his old arrogance flaring up. "You only have this company because you were too difficult to stay in Newton. We gave you the motivation to leave." I didn't blink. I pressed the panic button on my phone. My private security detail appeared within seconds, followed by a Denver PD cruiser I had on retainer for the building. "Officer," I said, my voice as level as a horizon. "These people are trespassing and have been sending me harassing communications for weeks. I would like to file for a permanent restraining order. Here is the documentation." As they were led away, Hudson screaming about how I'd regret it, I realized I didn't feel angry. I felt clean. Like I'd finally scrubbed the last of the Newton soot off my skin. 5 years to the day after I left, I returned to Massachusetts. I wasn't there as a daughter. I was there as the keynote speaker for the North American Logistics Summit. My face was on banners outside the convention center. I stayed at the Mandarin Oriental. I wore a tailored navy blazer, the same color Hudson had worn when he broke me, but this time it was my color. The night before my speech, I went to a high-end bistro in the city. I wanted to see if the air still smelled like stagnant privilege. I sat in a corner booth, reviewing my slides. "Would you like to hear the specials?" a voice whispered. I looked up. The woman was wearing a stained white apron and a black uniform. Her hair was pulled back in a severe, messy bun, and there were dark circles under her eyes that no amount of makeup could hide. She was holding a tray of bread, and her hands were shaking. It was Jade. She stared at me, her mouth falling open. "Skylar." "I'll have the sparkling water and the roasted chicken," I said, my voice devoid of any emotion. "Skylar, please." Hudson left. He took the last of the cash and went to Florida with some girl he met online. Mom and Dad won't let me move back in because the creditors are watching the house. I'm working 3 jobs. I'm living in a shared basement in Quincy. I looked at her, the girl who was light, the girl who was life. She looked like a guttering candle. The chicken, Jade. And the water. I'm on a schedule. She started to cry right there in the middle of the dining room. "How can you be so cold?" "We're sisters." "We were twins," I corrected her. "But I think I absorbed the ambition and you absorbed the entitlement. You should check on table 4. Their water is low." I ate my dinner. It was mediocre. When the bill came, I saw she had written a note on the back of the receipt. "I'm sorry. Please." I left a $200 tip on a $40 bill. Not because I was kind, but because I wanted her to know that my pocket change was more than she earned in a week. The next morning, I stood on the stage of the grand ballroom. 3,000 people sat in silence. My parents were there. I had seen them sneak into the back, looking small and aged, hoping for a nod, a look, a way back into my tax bracket. 5 years ago, I told the crowd, I was told I was a placeholder. I was told that the most I could hope for was to be a supporting character in someone else's true love story. But here is the truth about betrayal. It is a gift. It is the world's way of clearing the clutter out of your life so you can finally see the horizon. I didn't look at my parents. I didn't think about Jade. I spoke about the beauty of efficiency, not just in logistics, but in the human heart. I told them that the most expensive thing you can own is your own time, and you should never spend it on people who view you as an option. The standing ovation lasted for 5 minutes. I walked off that stage, straight to the airport, and didn't look back at the skyline. My phone was blowing up with texts from my father, begging for a family dinner. I deleted them, changed my number, and ordered a glass of scotch on the flight. As the plane leveled out over the Rockies, I looked at my reflection in the window. I wasn't a ghost anymore. I was a monument. And the best part about being a monument? You don't have to look down at the people standing in your shadow.